Hello guys, welcome to the channel. I'm testing a little bit of a new light setup. I have a light over there, like all the way across. So I'm just testing it for this week when I film at night. I want to see if I can do it like this. I don't know, maybe it won't work out. I'll look at it in post-production, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, I'm just trying it for today. So yeah, anyway, today we are ranking Cobra Kai seasons from the least best to the best. And I say that because all of them are, at least I'd say all of them are really good. Even my least favorite, I'd still say it's a really good and very enjoyable season. It's a very bingeable show. I got it done a little over a week. I finished it yesterday, and today I decided to start doing my Cobra Kai rankings. So this is Cobra Kai episodes. Oh, sorry, Cobra Kai. This is Cobra Kai seasons. Episodes will be coming later. Then character tier list. Not gonna do a ranking. Do not have the time. It's gonna take way too long. I'm just gonna do a tier list. So not much to say, but let's get started with the ranking. Coming in at number 5 is gonna be Cobra Kai season 5. Again, as I said, I enjoy all of these seasons. They're all really good in their own respect. I think there's a lot of great things about them. This just ended up being last. Part of the problem is that it does take a while to really get going. There's a lot of repeated story, specifically with characters like Miguel and Sam, especially them. But there's some other also new progressive stuff they do with the characters. And it does progress a bit where now it's not about the teenagers as much. We're bringing in some more characters like Chosen. And this is really season 4, I'd say, was kind of the limit where they kind of could balance out the characters. This one kind of just goes off the rails a bit. I know if I'm going to be honest. Now Chosen's in it, now Bard's in it, and now characters like Hawk and Dimitri are kind of put to the back burner and not as prominent as they were in every other season. Season 1, but whatever. Overall, still enjoyable season. Some great fights, specifically between Terry and Chosen. Speaking of, Terry Silver's as good as ever, maniacal, kind of a middle ground between Karate Kid Part 3 and Cobra Kai season 4. Kind of a middle ground where he's not as cocaine and high, I guess, as he was in Karate Kid Part 3, but a bit more insane than he was in Cobra Kai season 4. So I like the middle ground that they do with him here. Thomas Ian Griffin is as good as ever, obviously. He's a martial artist, and he fights as good as ever. And then Chosen, I love that he's in here. He makes some scenes so fun. And the fact that he is Daniel's muscle, I think that makes it just so much fun. There's a lot of great elements with him. I love what they did with him and Johnny. The relationship there actually works very well. As two ex-Karate Kid villains, I think it works very well. And I love the rivalry that they put up between him and Silver. Starting from when, at the end of episode 1, where he goes undercover, and then in episode 2 he's figured out, that kind of just sparks this rivalry that's gone out throughout the entire season. And I think the way it ends up, I think just works very well. The stuff between Silver and Daniel, I don't think it works as well as season 4, because I do think Daniel goes a bit off the rails. He's a little bit too stupid at times. He's easily manipulated. But overall, I love what they did with Terry Silver. On the other hand, a lot of things that don't work. As I said, characters' arcs are repeated. There's a huge issue because the way it follows up from season 4 is odd. Whereas they kept the deal, which doesn't seem like something Daniel, Johnny, or Chosen would do. It's not something Daniel would do, really. And there are many deals I've been trying to keep up, but then he just kind of just doesn't listen. And then this one comes up, he's like, oh, we're shutting it down. And especially in the light of what happened at the end of season 4, it just doesn't make sense. I thought that was odd. Miguel, his whole plot line, it was just rushed. It wasn't bad. I think it was done well. They rushed it. There's just come on, they could have done a bit better. So the thing is that as much as I did really enjoy the show, as much as I did really enjoy episodes, just a lot of problems, and it was a little frustrating. And also the Seikai Takai plotline, I think that should have been the finale, and then the next season was about preparing them for the Seikai Takai tournament. The last 2 episodes of season 6 were the Seikai Takai tournament. That would have made sense. I don't love what they did here, and the whole cliffhanger at the end of the season, just okay. I guess Kurisan jail. I'm interested to see what they do with him in season 6, but a bit of a speed bump in the show, if I'm going to be honest. But as I said, characters as fun as ever. Johnny's as fun as ever. There's some great Johnny moments, with him Ubering and doing a DoorDash food delivery. Him trying to get a new phone. Him and Carmen figuring out what to do with the child. There's a lot of great Johnny moments, and I think those are some of my favorites of the show, and is so here. Coming in number 4, Between 4 and 3, they're kind of close, but number 4, I'm going to go with season 2. I really enjoyed the season. I had a lot of fun with it in second watch. It wasn't as good as I was expecting it, because I liked, or I guess third watch, but because the last couple watches I liked it a lot more, but great stuff. Amazing fights. The school fight obviously is great. Even some of the smaller ones, like Johnny and his guys fighting in the bar. I like the mall fight. It was a bit of an odd episode, but overall I think that's something that worked. And Kreese coming in, I thought that was interesting. He brought a new dynamic that worked for the show. But a lot of issues. Tori is insufferable in the season. Robbie is getting better, but then he makes the wrong decision in the end. And I think some of that stuff works. I like what they did with Miguel here. But I think the problem with the season that I've always had a disconnect, because I think the fun stuff about the show is all the Johnny stuff. There are some great Johnny moments, like him trying to go on that use dating apps, and him posting a video on YouTube in episode 3. And I love the whole thing at the Valley Fest thing, and I thought episode 3 is great. But the problem is, I think the whole thing, the core of the show was the Johnny Miguel stuff. And it's not really present here. Like, there's a couple stuff of it at the beginning and a little bit, like, right in the middle. But it's more about, like, the teenage politics, which is the stuff that kind of frustrated me in the early seasons of the show. Specifically, this season was the teenage politics that there were. So it got a bit too far, whereas Hawk was starting to become a full-on bully, or they're all becoming full-on bullies. It just goes too far at times, and it just doesn't work. But I like the idea of two rivaling dojos going against each other, and I think that works. But at the end, also, because they're kind of playing around with no one's really good and no one's really bad, it kind of plays around with that, and so you don't really know what you're building to in the end. So just the season, it was as enjoyable as ever. It just didn't flow right. It was a little odd. Coming in number 3 is going to be season 3. Overall, I think I enjoyed this one way more than I was expecting. I was expecting this one to probably be bottom 2 maybe, but turns out really enjoyed this one. I had a lot of fun with it. There are issues. First one, all the stuff with the fact that just they won't call the cops is really abundant, and I think this season is the worst example of that. Worse than season 5, I'd say, because it's not as abundant in that season. Cobra Kai's just too mean. They're committing way too many felonies, and some of the fights, choreography is not as good as it was in season 2. Like, specifically in the house, where you can see there's some stuff in the background, like during the long shots, which don't work as well as they did in like season 2. And the third one, I think the Kreese flashbacks really just didn't work. I like the idea of doing them, but the show just didn't have the production value to pull Vietnam off, so it just fell flat. All of those combined, those really were the issues, but a lot of great things. This is Kreese at his best. Kreese at his most maniacal, but like it's before he didn't quite go full on like he did in season 2. He was sort of, but he wasn't at like a kind of in between state like he was in season 4. So it was kind of like the pre-motion, kind of what we needed. And I thought that was what Kreese did really well in this season. I think Martin Cubb is as good as ever. This is probably his best thing yet, this role, and especially in this season. I think he's great. All the characters are great. Johnny gets his great moments, specifically with him training Miguel.
It's alright, you felt like a champ.
But I think what this season does really well, some seasons have not handled the fallout from the last season well, but this season does this actually really well. I think seasons 2, 4, and 5 handled it a bit oddly. Season 4 did it alright, but I think this season did it really well, where showing what the school fight had consequences, and I think that was shown really well. Miguel having the back injury or spine injury, whatever it is. You have Tori on probation. Robbie's in jail now, or in juvie, I guess. And then I think the weight and Johnny's going back to kind of his drunken state that he was in the beginning of the first season. I think all of those elements work very well. I think the way the season plays off of that works very well. So I think the thing about this season compared to a lot of the other ones, a lot of them just take a little while to just kick into motion. Season 2 and 5 especially, but this season I think kind of gets it going right away, and I think that's something it does really well. Another thing, I just love the plot line with Daniel in Japan. That was the best stuff of this season, in my opinion. There are some great stuff like the Johnny and Miguel stuff I love, but the Daniel in Japan, it was great to see that for the 2-episode period, episode 4 and 5, and him seeing Chosen at like a different state of life. I think that works, and I like what they did with Hawk with the whole sort of, I guess, redemption arc. Didn't work out as well in hindsight, but I like some of the ideas they did. They brought Kyler back, which I think he played made for a nice role. Sort of the reason why Hawk is sort of on the fence about staying in Cobra Kai. I think that works pretty well. Tori just is insufferable. Robbie, I don't love what they do with him. It just makes it so he's very victimizing, or don't think that's the correct term, but grammar's not my strong suit. So, well, he's essentially just blaming Johnny, blaming Daniel for everything, and doesn't understand that he definitely has at fault for he kicked the kid off a balcony. That's kind of what it is, but whatever. So overall, I think the way it plays off of these stuff just works very well. I think Dimitri becomes a much better character in the season. I think Sam, this is where also the love triangles get pretty annoying. Season 1 and 2, I think, handled them pretty well, and they made it pretty interesting. This season is where they kind of started to go a little off the rails, specifically between Sam, Robbie, Miguel, and Tori. Specifically, well, I guess it's a square if you think about it. So, the love triangle stuff, I think it gets a bit too far. In this season especially, this is probably the worst example of that. There's a lot of issues with this season, but amazing stuff. House fight, on rewatches, I start to enjoy a lot more. There's a lot of great stuff from it. It's very memorable, and I think it's great. The Kreese fight, the finale I have my issues with, but I think it works. Allie coming back. On rewatches, I actually like that quite a bit more and more as I rewatch the season, because the way it plays into season 4. And I think this season overall is made better because of the later seasons, because the setup with Kreese on the phone call, that leads into him at Silver, and that's what starts this whole plot line where Silver is now taking over Cobra Kai. This is the season that really this is kind of more of a transitional season from where we have our kids sort of, where the show's sort of kind of debating on who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. And then season 2, Cobra Kai's becoming bullies, so it's dojo versus dojo. And then this season kind of transitions it from sort of now Cobra Kai's are the bad ones. And then by the end of the season, all the people that you want on the Miyagi-Do side are on Miyagi's side, and same with Cobra Kai. So, balance.
Better learn balance. Balance is key. Balance good, karate good, everything good. Balance bad, better pack up, go home.
And I think that's where the season ends off, and I think it works pretty well. So, and I think in hindsight, this one works much better once you binge watch it. But I think on its own, it's a bit odd. Coming in number 2 is going to be season 4. When I watched the season, I was a little bit worried based on where season 3 ended off, and I was like, this could be really good, but I'm a little worried that this is going to show. And we were wrong. This is one of the best seasons of the show for sure. Where I think the cool part about it is that we know that we're building to the tournament. So it sort of gives us everyone's sort of perspective on it. And I think all of the plots come together in the tournament. And I think that was an amazing closure where Miguel realizes that karate isn't that important. It's like there's more important things, like him trying to find his biological father, and that leads into season 5. Well, didn't pay off that well season 5, but we already got into that. I like what they do with Silver here. He's amazing. He's better than ever. I think they give him a bit more of like humility at the beginning of the season, where he is kind of living off his rich boy chill life on the ocean. There's some other fun moments. Johnny training Daniel, and Daniel training Johnny. That was some of the most fun stuff on the entire show, because there's been such like a rivalry between the two, and seeing the two train each other is just so fun. And I think the stuff with Ali pays off a lot from season 3, pays off a lot more in this season, because now you see them work together. I like what they do with the Pain character. Robbie, I think, is much better in the season. Same with Tori. Those are the 2 most improved characters by the season. And the only real issue I have with it is that there's just some plots that are kind of discontinued. Specifically, the Pain plot line. It went on for 2 episodes, and then it stopped until like episode 7 because we had to focus on all these other things. So, just that is kind of what bothered me. And also, Hawk is kind of being a bit of a butthead in like episode 4, and that episode didn't really work for me. But other than those small elements, this season was fantastic. The tournament was amazing. A lot of other fights were very good, and just a very fun season in general. And I think the other reason why it's not number 1, even the stuff with Hawk didn't really bother me, it's that the way season 5 kind of came off from this season just didn't really work for me. So it kind of just worsens the season a little bit, just because that season 1, it wasn't as good. But Silver stuff was great. I really enjoy the season. I had a lot of fun with it. It's one of the more rewatchable seasons, I'd say, and it's kind of where I think the show kind of hits the limit when it comes to the characters. Season 5, I think, adds too many, and this season balances it pretty good for the most part. But I think this is where they start to add too many characters. The show specifically, where the Pain plot line. I love the season. Fantastic. I love what they do with Daniel. I love what they do with Johnny. And I think the way it concludes at the tournament, every fight matters. Every fight is intense. I just loved what they do. I was absolutely amazed with how the season came out. And when I saw it when I was on vacation, I was just impressed. And I think just an amazing season of this show and just the Netflix television, because it's just so fun. They enter new dynamics like Sam and Johnny and Miguel and Daniel. I think that all of that was just so much fun, and I think that made for an amazing season. But I have one more that I just like slightly more, and that is season 1. I don't really think there are any problems with it, because I think what it does really well, it goes back to the roots of the Karate Kid, where it's about a father in need of a son and a son in need of a father, and that's kind of where it starts. Even though Johnny's nothing like Mr. Miyagi, yeah, very different. Am I right, or am I wrong?
Not anymore. We do not allow weakness in this dojo. So you can leave your asthma and your peanut allergies and all that other made-up bullshit outside. Is that understood?
I just love the season. It's so enjoyable. The characters are all really good to start off with. It starts off very small, where you have just Miguel getting bullied at school, as he just starts there. And then he finds a mentor, an unlikely one at that, and trains to become the champion. And I think that simple premise just makes the season just so fun, so enjoyable. Even though characters like Dimitri are still pretty annoying. Season 1 and 2, he was insufferable. But you also have characters like Eli Hawk, whatever you want to call him. I love what they do with that character. He went through a transformation. And at the end of the season, as Johnny realizes the mistake that he made, because now these kids are starting to become sort of like bullies, I think the way that plays out works very well. Some of the character stuff I'm not fully on board with, specifically the stuff with Robbie, where he just did Miyagi-Do just to get back his father. Just some stuff didn't feel quite right, but really that doesn't bother me, because the stuff when Robbie's training with Daniel, specifically in episode 8 when they go out to the forest area, I think that just works so well. And man, I just really enjoy the show right from the get-go. I think there's some amazing fights. I love the cafeteria fight. I think there's some stuff in all the Cobra Kai fights in the dojo were just a lot of fun. All the lessons that Johnny's teaching them is fun. Johnny starting to learn about the internet, because he was just stuck in his glory days in the 80s. He didn't even realize that all this was there. I think it's just so funny. And I think this season has the best Johnny moments, if I'm going to be honest. So overall, I love the season. It was amazing right from the start. Amazing characters. Miguel was great. I think I love how they continue it from the original Karate Kid movie, with Daniel's still kind of holding a grudge against Johnny for what he did to him in high school. And I think the way you kind of see that, and I don't think it was episode 8, the way they kind of sort of play off of it, and how Johnny telling us his side, it makes you realize that maybe Johnny was the good guy. And I think there are people, I didn't watch the show right when it came out back in 2018, but I heard that like people said this was going to be terrible, it's going to be another one of those reboot shows, but ended up working really well, became a very popular show, and this season is a season that I absolutely love. So it comes in at number 1. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to have some other rankings coming soon. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share your rank in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time. Adios.